Always a hilarious quote to listen to, Luciano Spalletti. A hilarious man to listen to, and apparently a good coach this season for Napoli. But that's not what we're here to talk about. With Martino Puccio from the State of Play podcast joining us, making his return about what I think it was a year and a half ago. You came on talk about Italy, so this time you come on talk about Milan. How's it going, Martino?
Pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, I think it was my last Skype call, to be honest with you. So I noticed
Very possible.
Yeah. I'm good. How are you guys?
We're good,
Not too
man.
bad.
We're still here.
I mean, Skype usually has been a 2010 thing, but here we are still in
Yeah.
2022 using it.
Yeah,
Very Serie A of us, you know.
Yeah,
Using
exactly.
stuff from the past. Yeah.
We're in with the times.
The only reason we still use it is because it works with our podcast hosting service Spreaker. So got to use Skype to record our calls. At least it works. That's all that matters. Records our calls. Records our video. But we'll start with the Milan-Napoli game. Obviously, it was the primetime game of the week. The Sunday night matchup. Obviously, I'm sure you watched it, but give us your thoughts. Obviously, Napoli come out with a 2-1 win. Milan they did fall behind in the game on the penalty. Drew tied it up, and then ultimately it was Simeone who decided it. But give us your thoughts on that game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as devastated as a Milan fan, to be honest with you. They've done this before where they've lost to Napoli. I mean, we haven't even beaten them at home since 2014, so it's been a very long time anyways. It was always going to be a tough game. I thought that going in. I even said that myself. I didn't have good vibes going into this one. There was just something about it. Napoli have always a lot of momentum early on in the year, and they were playing great football. So, listen, you don't finish opportunities, you're not going to win these games. And that's what a lot of fans, I think, are struggling with for whatever reason, because they have a hard time accepting defeat. So, in the reality of it, I thought Milan absolutely created more chances. The finishing was poor, in my opinion. You can't be making defensive mistakes where Giovanni Simeone's open in the box where no one's near him. And then, you can't commit a penalty where you don't even touch the ball. So obviously there are two grave mistakes that they've made, and that's kind of been like their thing early on this season, that the defense has been a little shaky. You could say the defense has been better in the Champions League than it has been in Serie A, which is funny because that's the whole reason they won the title at the end of last year. Like, nobody could score on them. Right now they're struggling. So, credit to Napoli. They came in there and they had a great mentality. Merit was great. Kim was fantastic. That stop that he had on Brahim Diaz, where he almost tried heading the ball, and was as good as a defensive stop you'll see. And yeah, I fully deserve victory for them. I have no issue with anything that went down.
Yeah, on the Kim play, I was kind of worried. I'm like, oh my God, that's almost a high boot. I was actually really worried too, because I'm like, that's this close.
Honestly,
like,
if it was a taller player, bro, yeah.
I was like,
level.
Yeah, but I mean, like going to the San Siro, the Manichini's there to take the spot of Spalletti because you had a red from prior to the game. I'm thinking, okay, well, no Osimhen, no Spalletti on the bench to help manage the team. I mean, obviously, he probably gave the Manichini a strategy and whatnot, and told him just execute this plan and whatnot. But I feel like as if sometimes things can happen in a game that coaches and managers have, whatever term you want to use, have to change on the fly. So that obviously was a worry. And last year when Napoli played Milan in the San Siro, that was the second leg, if I'm not mistaken, and they lost that game 1-0, right?
It was the first one.
It was the first one. No, because they won the first one.
Napoli won the first one. That was the one with the Kessie goal, but they said Giroud fouled him on
the floor. On the floor, and he's offside apparently. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. No. So, nonetheless, it's like, hey, cool, you get the first win versus Milan, but there's obviously a game 2 that's going to happen sometime in the future. So it's nice to get that first win, but I have to think that probably I know like you guys weren't finishing chances, but like Giroud, he was still a major threat. I found. He still made himself available. Theo Hernandez, fantastic game. Defensively and offensively, fantastic game. But
I thought he was the best player in general for both teams.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. But yeah, Adri, how about you? What were your thoughts about the game? Since you're the other Milanista in the call.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, listen, Martino said it right. I mean, it comes down to, for me at least, it came down to, yes, the chances were created, but the lack of finishing in that final third. Okay, some people are gonna say unlucky. You know, the post, the crossbar, the Kalulu miss in the 85th, 86th minute, whatever it was. You know, these things happen, right? In Calcio, it's unfortunate because I think those moments where it was lack of finishing in the final third kind of, you know, brought us Milan fans back a couple of years where we've been so damn terrible in the final third. But listen, this is still, I think, a positive you know, mindset, I would hope, going forward. I know the Pioli and the team is obviously not satisfied with the result, but they played. It wasn't that they laid an egg in this big game. They played their game. Unfortunately, the ball didn't go in, you know, enough times. For me, it's disappointing. I know Martino, you know, can accept it. I can accept it too. It's just a bit disappointing, just the way the result happened, because you know, that sub of Calabria Dest, people are going to start talking about that. Was that the right move? Now it looks like it wasn't. Listen, guys, these types of things happen.
It was a hip flexor, they were saying anyways, that
yeah,
Calabria,
exactly.
so like
exactly.
It's not even Pioli's fault at that point.
Absolutely, precaution, right? So listen, I don't knock him too much for that. People are definitely going a bit, you know, too much into it, but listen, Dest has to get those minutes, and I think he's a good player that can contribute to this team, to this Milan side. So it looked bad now, but at the grand scheme of things, you know, it is something that can happen. Kvara, like I said, has caused fits for many teams so far to kick off this season. So, but what I did like is that even though he's been such a threat, for the most part, I think Milan pretty much kept them at bay, kept those big players at bay. You know, obviously Simeone, that super sub that he's kind of you know, evolved into here at Napoli right now in the beginning of the season, is something to do. But listen, like Martino said, I think the defensive mistakes, you know, for the penalty, okay, but for the goal as well, Tomori kind of getting, letting Simeone get in front of him. And if you recall, Simeone is even the one who started the play to dish it out to Mario Rui. He makes the run inside, and he's left like wide open. So our defense, yes, is very, people like to say, very that modern defenders with Kalulu and Tomori or Kier or what have you in the back, but sometimes that aggressive nature kind of can bite you in the ass, and maybe we saw a bit of that yesterday. But again, Napoli definitely deserved it. I think maybe the draw might have been the overall, you know, deserved result on both sides, let's say. But on the day, Napoli was better, and they were able to put the ball in the back of the net more times than Milan did. And unfortunately, our boy Jan from Milan Club Montreal, our buddy here on the podcast, couldn't see a Milan victory at the San Siro. But again, I know he had a great time. So, yeah.
Having a Milan guest on with, you know, with Adriano, Milan fan, plus Gianni, the Napoli fan, and then there's me, the Juve fan. It feels like that SpongeBob meme where like Squidward is looking down on Patrick and SpongeBob playing outside, and Squidward's left out. but
it's a reverse
Martino,
role after a decade, man. So
it's about damn time, Martino.
I mean, I don't think anybody's complaining. To be fair,
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
They didn't feel bad for Squidward. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they had like 10-point leads on like the rest of the league. I mean, in terms of points, 10, 15 points, I think they're fine. I think they're good.
But Martin, I wanted to ask you. So Serginho Desti signed with Milan. I think it was like a deadline day transfer. So you're American. So what's it like seeing an American on Milan?
I don't know. It's not. It's like a Fugazi thing, kind of like he's American. He's not. He plays for the national team. He grew up in Holland, and you know, he chose citizenship for America. And you know, it's I don't know. It's just kind of not the same. There's been a lot of other players that have like grown up over here. Like Christian Pulisic feels more like assimilated to us than not. But still, the exposure is like Serginho plays for our national team, and the last time we had someone, it was Oguchi Onye who went to go fight Zlatan, and that was, I don't know, 11 years ago or whenever it was. So it's been a long time coming, and I just like feel bad because I think there's this certain type of, you know, guard that these players have to have up if they're American. I think they're open to a lot more criticism than most nations, in my opinion. You guys can tell me different. I think I'd rather be a Canadian player any day of the week because they're not going to rip into you as much as Americans. Like there's a lot more loud and obnoxious American fans that there's always this sense of entitlement because, they're great at other sports. They think that they could be great in any sport, but that's a whole nother story. But it's frustrating to see him play like that. It was a difficult situation, difficult match to get into. I thought he played well in the Champions League when he got into those matches. Again, that's the whole level of growth because people forget how young he is too. He's just 22. So again, like it's not going to be a finished product, and that's a lot of these players on Milan. Still, everyone still forgets. They're younger than the majority of the teams that are competing at the top, and they're one of the younger ones in the Champions League. So if we see mistakes, it's going to happen. Unfortunately, when you're Milan, you can't afford too many mistakes because you're trying to win the biggest of trophies. So I think it's great to see him there. We'll see what that price tag eventually comes up to. I don't think 20 or 22 million euro is what it's going to come down to. He would have to play fantastic for that. I think there's the potential of the renegotiation of his salary, of his fee, because that's the way Maldini and Milan work these days anyways. Whatever the initial offer is, it's not usually the final one. So yeah, all in all, I mean, it's awesome. You can't complain about it. I've been asking for an American player, but beggars can't be choosers, right? We'll see if we'll get a Canadian though. I know of one that
Jonathan
a lot.
David. Jonathan David.
Yep, there you go.
Jonathan
I didn't want to say. I
David.
wanted you to say it for yourself. Yeah, I mean, there's already those links yet again. We'll see, but I rather take someone else that Nick roots for. But I won't say.
So Tajon Buchanan?
No. We'll just take
Davies.
We'll take Dusan from.
Dusan.
See, I mean,
Yeah,
I
save
think
him. Save him.
I think there's a very, very small chance that there's this kind of like frustration and friction between him and someone like Allegri, where that
100%.
situation you could like it really just depends on how the rest of that Juve situation goes. But that's besides the point.
Before I like what you brought up, but before I touch that, I want to make a quick joke because I'm like, is your Sergio Dest basically our Jonathan de Guzman, where Dutch footballer but just is playing for the national team, whatever. Long story short, for like our North American countries. Long story short, while trying to make this joke, I just did a quick search. Apparently, his middle name is Gianni. So I don't know if I should really crap on this player because we share the same name. No, I'm just kidding.
I think you should thank him after yesterday, man. I don't think anything.
The little fumble.
Exactly.
A little fumble on Kvaratskhelia. A lot of people were like arguing that, like, okay, well, that's weird because if it happened in the middle of the field, I wouldn't be in call. I'm like, there's contact and no ball was touched. It's soft. I don't disagree. And yeah, like KK definitely did, kind of he sold it. But especially in today's game with VAR being apparent, these little things sometimes do become noticed. They don't go unnoticed. And just to quickly touch your Vlahovic point, I mean, I could possibly see, like, it is a small chance, but my God, would that price tag really, really be high? Because like they just got him. How long is his contract, Nick? Another 2 more years? 3 years? You wouldn't know, eh?
Probably.
No,
Probably.
I don't pay attention to the contracts.
I think after like
misery.
like the moment it's 30 million plus, I don't think Maldini's interested in buying that player anymore.
We'll see with new ownership. I think that's just an entire thing that they have to prove. And we won't know until January or later on. They extended quite a few players already. So again, I think we'll see with the higher end players on, if Leao gets paid his money, then I'm confident something bigger is coming within.
And he deserves it
January or the summer. I think the whole fan base deserves it because you're still seeing Wolves making final day signings from the Portuguese league that are more expensive than any Milan signing ever.
Absolutely.
It's a long time, and that's kind of the scary part. I would say for the rest of the league. And if you want to think any other way, that's up to you. But like, think about it. If Milan has the capability of having a wage bill in fees that Juve have in, I don't know, the past 5 years or so, I mean, who knows what they could do with that money? So we'll see. Very early though, only 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Marty, I kind of want to just kind of bring the conversation back to the points you were making on Dest and obviously his Champions League performances. I want to get your take on on two things. It's kind of like a two-part question. Dest, I know many fans, obviously in our neck of the woods here, obviously he's listed as a right back. I think he can play a bit more forward as well, maybe on the right wing. We all know that we've had many troubles on the right wing. We've been asking and praying for a right winger for many, many mercatos right now. So do you think Dest is a player that Pioli can integrate into that right-hand side? I know he's kind of shown glimpses of getting forward, being a bit creative, also doing his defensive work as well. And what have you made of, again, going back to your point of how he's performed in the Champions League so far, what have you made of Milan's opening two matches in Champions League? Obviously, the first one against Salzburg, the 1-1 draw. They came back to beat Dinamo in the 3-1. Just your overall thoughts on all that, Martino.
Yeah, so I think Dest as right wing would be something when Florenzi returns, because you don't want to risk anything in terms of like playing this guy in a position where Calabria also has to play. Calabria does have a poor injury record, and it's kind of showing again the guy can't handle that many minutes in a row. I think we're lucky enough that, I mean, Theo Hernandez, another example, our other fullback, he's not even going with the French national team because he had an abductor issue. And then we're playing a 35, 36-year-old striker 7 matches in a row. So, of course, he can't get on top of the damn ball when he gets headers sent into the box. But I think that's an option for them to test it out. I think Milan loves these versatile players, right? Like Krunic plays all over the place. He played in the double pivot at one point, number 10. He played on the left wing. Rebic can play left wing. He plays at the striker. Divock Origi, striker left wing. I think that's kind of where they look at it. And I even think there would be a scenario potentially where you're playing a lesser side, like say Empoli, for example, right? You have Kalulu move out wide to the right side. You have Chiaro go in centrally. And then if you needed to put Dest up top on the right wing, then I see that kind of scenario there. But I don't really see how it would benefit Milan at this current moment without Florenzi, because, look, like, you only have two options. You're playing the most condensed schedule since the COVID year. I mean, the past, like, 3 seasons, really, or 2.5 seasons have been a condensed schedule. And this one is just as weird as, it's just as weird as the other. So, again, you have to manage that properly, and I think that's why Pioli is trying to play that safe. As far as the Champions League, Salzburg, people, like, this is like the perfect, this is epitome of soccer Twitter or football Twitter, where people don't know who the hell Salzburg are or know anything about how difficult it is to play in a place like that. Okay? Yes. If anyone, I don't understand how these people do not watch the knockout stages of the UEFA Champions League, the biggest footballing competition that happens every single year, and they don't notice that Bayern Munich, one of the biggest clubs in the world, struggled very hard there. Okay? And it could have been 3-4-1 or 4-0 in that situation. And Milan went there despite them losing certain players. Milan still went there, okay? And then they had a Inter on the weekend, and they drew. And they came back in that one. And I mean, again, it's annoying when you give up goals like that, and my boy Kalulu is getting nutmegged and embarrassed like he got crossed up in basketball. Like, it's rough to see. But again, how resilient they are. They come back in that, because you show glimpses of it in the Champions League last year. They go 2-0 down to Liverpool, and then they come back, or it was 1-0, and I don't know how we came back in those like 10 minutes where they were up 2-1 for a second, and then everything imploded. But Dinamo Zagreb, like, getting players like Pobega scoring a goal in that situation, I think Leao was great. Even if his finishing still needs to be refined, he's still assisting players. I think everyone is just stepping up now, and that experience from last year, they age better. Just like when they finished second behind Inter. Look how much better they didn't lose a match to a top 6 team besides Napoli last year. That says a lot. They didn't lose against these types of teams. And again, of course, they lose right away to Napoli this year again. So hopefully that's the only one. But it's perfect. Chelsea's struggling. They're getting a draw and a loss. So they have a difficult job. Zagreb, they got that win against Chelsea. Great. Salzburg, they're really not doing too many right now. So Milan, with 4 points, they got the ones out of the way that you would have been happy with. You're happy with a result away to Salzburg? Yes, I would take that. Would you take a win at home to Zagreb? Yes, I would take that. So now it really comes down to the Chelsea matches. Chelsea matches is so annoying because I feel like almost every single time, this happened with Salernitana, that almost every single time Milan's ready to play a game against a squad that's in poor form, they fire their manager and they're okay now. So like if
Yeah.
Graham Potter comes in and he gets them straight and he gets them going and he's a good manager too, because he did well with a really garbage Brighton side, who now have signed Nick's preferred
Zerbi.
manager for the Allegri replacement.
Yeah.
So in
No
De
longer.
Zerbi. Yeah, no longer. I think they're in a good spot because I think again, when you're in multiple competitions, you want to set out goals. For Milan, compete and try and win the Scudetto again. Get to the knockout stages of the Champions League and go deep in Coppa Italia. And I think they're well positioned so far. I mean, Coppa Italia doesn't count right now, but they're well positioned right now to do those things. And I don't think I could ask for any more at this point.
Well said.
You guys got a couple social media questions.
Already, we did get some.
Last minute.
Yeah, it's okay.
Our friend Fabrizio from General Club Toronto, he asked, what was missing for the game versus Napoli? While we're still on that topic.
By the way, just a fun fact. Nicholas wrote million in the
I
notes,
wrote
so
million.
that's what I was like.
Yeah,
What was
I don't know
million?
why
we
I
did
don't
not
What the
know.
hell
know
does million mean, Nick? Come on, man. Prepper
S is
knows
very
better.
far from L on the keyword. I don't know how I missed that. I missed. I
It was your
milled
nose you got the surgery for, not your fingers. Come on, man.
it. Affected my brain apparently.
Apparently.
That's great. So you want me to answer this or okay? I mean just the finishing. Really, I don't.
Yeah.
Mental errors. There's always that Simone Kjaer thing of the meme that everybody posts is all we do is concede shit goals, and that kind of happened again. So yeah. I mean, listen, lack of finishing. Giroud had opportunities. We saw mistakes that you cannot make in matches like that. And it's frustrating when Magnan guesses right on the penalty and it just goes underneath him. So yeah, I mean, again, it's just frustrating. You hit the post, but again, that's football, right? Like we've had times where things have gone our way, that we have been fortunate, and the opposite for Napoli, and it's circle of life, so just finish better next time and you don't have to worry about this stuff.